Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's flying device is a Flexi Buzzer, a pattern that I use either under a bung or straight lining on the point of a longish, say 20-foot leader. It's a very simple fly. The basis of it is using Flexi Floss, as the name implies. I'm using a Kamasan B175 again as the hook. This is in a size 10. It's probably a little bit exaggerated for the size of normal buzzers, but it does really work, whether it's the orange hotspot thorax or the overall feeling of quite realistic representation of a buzzer. I don't know, but it works really well. So I've applied a bed of black UTC thread. I'm going to now add a piece of white Flexi Floss on the top. I'm just trapping that with a few turns, and then I'm going to add a piece of black Flexi Floss. This is almost like a charcoal grey. It's not really a true black, but I think it does look more realistic than a true black. If you do look at a buzzer, it has this charcoal grey look a lot of the time. So I've trapped that down a couple of times. I'm pulling it a little bit to start off with, just to make the bulk a bit less. Then as I'm going round the bend of the hook to where I finished the thread initially, I'm pulling it really tight, and then I'm going over it again with the thread just to give it a bit more of an even body, and stretching those pieces of Flexi Floss really tight and snipping them off with scissors. Now I'm holding both pieces of Flexi Floss together because I want to create this even banding. So I'm pulling really tight when I start off, again to give the fly a bit of a taper. Try and keep these turns touching. It doesn't really matter too much about your background thread wraps as long as they're fairly even. So I've got to the point where I'm going to start the thorax. So I'm just going to whip over the top of this Flexi Floss. You do have to keep tension on it all the time because it can soon sort of pop off and unravel because how elastic the material is, really. So I'm giving that a couple of turns first to make sure it's trapped, and then what I'm going to do, I'll create some of the bulk of the thorax by just wrapping the black and white Flexi Floss together and then nipping it off where the thorax is going to start. Now you can leave it like that, basically just cover over the thorax with some black thread, tie it off, and then apply the UV varnish. But for this version I'll use the fly that I use early season mostly, which is the one with the orange hotspot, which picks up stockies as well as resident fish. But as I say, if the fish start getting a bit wary later on, just change things around a bit. So I've just nipped off that thread with the scalpel blade, and I'm going to apply the Glow Bright number 5. I'm just putting this on as I would do a normal thread base, and as you can see, I've tried to cover all the black and white underneath. And what I like to do with the Flexi Floss is just pull it back over itself before I tie it off. This is a practice I use mostly for doing butts on flies, which to save them slipping down the hook again, I'll leave that tag and then pull it over, and I find it really works well. Right, so I'm applying the orange Flexi Floss, which will create the rest of the thorax. I find that it does really need that Glow Bright number 5 to make the thorax glow more. This is a fly that I picked up from Fly Fishing and Fly Tying magazines many years ago. So I'm now applying the Flexi Floss over the top of the Glow Bright, and what I'm aiming for here is more of like a rugby ball thorax shape. It's probably a lot bigger than it would be on the natural insect, but this shape seems to work really well. I don't know whether it's taken for something else or like a clump of daphnia or something. So I'm holding that Flexi Floss really tight now as I'm tying it off with the Glow Bright. I switch hands here just to make it a little bit easier. Now be careful with the Glow Bright because it can be a little bit brittle, especially if one or two of the strands have been compromised. But I've just managed to get that snipped off with the scalpel blade. So what I'm going to do now is, you can see that the strands are delaminated a little bit here, so just be careful when you're using Glow Bright. So what I do first, I'll apply a quick whip finish, and then I'll sort of assess the rest of the tidiness of the fly. Apologies for knocking the vise. And I can see there's a bit left still, so I'll use the Flexi Floss just to fill over that, and it creates a really good hot spot, and in turn the Flexi Floss creates a base for it. So I'm cutting it off as close as I can with a scalpel. There are one or two straggly bits there that I could have burnt off with a flame. Right, now I'm just going to apply one coat of Solaris or Solores, whichever way you pronounce it, onto the fly, and try and really work it into the Flexi Floss. This protects the fly, but it also means that it sinks much quicker. So if you're straight lining, it soon goes through the water. So I'm just working this varnish right into the wraps of the Flexi Floss, and you can see now the varnish is going a little bit milky here. So what I found with Solores is that sometimes you need to zap it in the microwave just to loosen it up again and make it clear. But when you apply the UV torch like I'm going to now, it seems to make things clearer again. So that's about it for the fly now. I hope you've enjoyed this latest video, and it would be great if you could subscribe and leave in the comments below if you're successful with this pattern. I hope you are. So until next time, thank you for watching, and bye for now.